In this video, we're gonna look at some special properties that exponents have. So we're gonna start off by completing these tables. And what I want you to do is take out your calculator and just evaluate the expressions for these parts in the white part of the table. So I want you to find 2 raised to the third power, 2 raised to the second power, and 2 raised to the first power. And then I want you to do 3 to the third, 3 to the second, and 3 to the first. So just evaluate these first 6 problems up here. After you do that, go ahead and resume the video. So in your calculator, if you found 2 cubed, you would have found that that is 8. 2 squared is 4. And 2 to the first is 2. Over here, 3 cubed is 27, 3 squared is 9, and 3 to the first is 1. Well, let's see if we notice anything happening here. How do I get from 8 to 4? Well, we divide by 2. How do I get from 4 to 2? You divide by 2. So if this pattern continues, what's 2 divided by 2? 1. Let's see if anything similar is happening on this side. How do I get from 27 and 9? Divide by 3. How do I get from 9 to 3? Divide by 3. So what would our next one be? What's 3 divided by 3? 1. So notice here our pattern was dividing by our base. Here our pattern was dividing by our base. Here 2 raised to the 0th power is 1. And 3 raised to the 0th power is 1. Let's check in our calculators to see if that's true. 2 raised to the power of 0 is 1. 3 raised to the power of 0 is also 1. So this is true. Interesting. What if we kept going with this? So if I divided by 2 again, well, that would give me 1 divided by 2. If I divide by 2 again, that's going to give me 1 over 4. And if I divide by 2 again, that's going to give me 1 over 8. Well, that's interesting because it looks like this just becomes the denominator. Here, this became the denominator. And this became the denominator for this one. If I keep going with this one, 1 divided by 3 would be 1/3. 1/3 divided by 3 is 1/9. 1/9 divided by 3 is 1/27. Again, it looks like these are paired up and it's just becoming a denominator. It looks like these are paired and that's becoming the denominator. And maybe these are paired and that's becoming the denominator. So it's very interesting. What I want you to do is reflect on this table that we just saw. So did you notice anything? Did you notice any patterns? What do you notice and what do you wonder? So looking at this table, what I want you to write below is what do you notice happening here and what do you wonder about what's happening here? So go ahead, reflect on that, and once you do that, go ahead and resume the video. So this leads us in to the power of 0. So what happens when you have an exponent of 0? Well, I can tell you that anything raised to the 0th power is 1. So every number raised to the 0th power is 1. This always happens. This is always true. So if we look at these examples, a raised to the power of 0 is 1. y raised to the power of 0 is 1. 6 raised to the power of 0 is 1. Let's look at this. 100x squared y raised to the power of 0. Up here we said anything raised to the power of 0. So an exponent of 0 is 1. So what is our answer for number 4? 1. Anytime you have something raised to the power of 0, your answer is always 1. For negative exponents, what happens when you have a negative exponent? Well, to make a negative exponent positive, you move it to the denominator. And so here I have this exponent of negative m. That negative m becomes a positive m when you move it down into the denominator. If we look back at the activity that we just did, for these values here that were negatives, this is like I had 1 over 2 to the first. We made this negative exponent positive. 2 to the first is just 2. Here, to make this negative 2 positive, I can move it to the denominator. 2 squared is 4. That's how I'm getting this denominator of 4 here. If I want to make this negative exponent positive, I'll have 1 over 2 cubed. 2 cubed is 8. Same thing over here. 3 to the negative first power is 1 over 3 to the first, which is 1/3. 3 to the negative second power is 1 over 3 squared, which gives us 1/9. 3 raised to the negative third power would become 1 over 3 cubed, which is 1 over 27. So that's what's happening there. So again, to make a negative exponent positive, you move it to the denominator. So on this example, I have x raised to the negative third power. To make that negative exponent positive, I'll make it a fraction and I'll move it to the denominator. So I just take this negative 3, make that 3 positive by moving it down into the denominator. This is my answer. Y to the negative first. To make that have a positive exponent, just put it under 1, move it down into the denominator. So you have 1 over y to the first. So that's the same thing as saying 1 over y. If we look at example 3, 11 raised to the negative second power. Well, that means that I'm going to have 1 over 11 squared. Well, that's a number. I can evaluate that. 11 squared is 121. So my answer is 1 over 121. If you're doing this in a calculator, you could do 1 divided by 11 squared. And it gives you a decimal, but you can just hit that fraction button and it will give it to you as a nice number. So 1 over 121. That is our answer for this one. Go ahead and pause the video and see if you can find the answer to number 4. To make this negative exponent positive, we will move it to the denominator. 1 over 7 to the first is just 1/7.